What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So in this video, I'm going to be discussing how to know that you're in a deficit, right? In America, bro, there's always this common trend talking about obesity, and it's never going to stop, guys. The portion size alone compared to Europe and all these different countries is night and day. And a lot of people don't even understand how much they're consuming on a day-to-day basis. But that's what I'm going to be breaking down in today's video in terms of how to know that you yourself are actually in a deficit and heading towards your fitness goals when it comes to fat loss. Starting off with not worrying about what the scale says when it comes to weighing yourself. Weight fluctuates. Weight fluctuates through carbs, water, glycogen, stress level, and when you understand that, you start to realize things take time. Do you expect your paycheck after working one day at a new job? Probably not. So there's not going to be a real difference doing daily weigh-ins on the scale just to look at the number not changing and being frustrated. You want to do it in a sense where you're giving yourself enough time and data to see how your weight trends. So if you want to check in on yourself, let's say on Sunday, give yourself the whole week to give yourself data analysis in terms of doing your regular eating, doing your exercises, and then within a matter of 2 to 3 weeks, see how your weight is trending. Because that's going to give you enough time to understand that if you're gaining weight, then chances are you're probably not at a deficit. Another thing to notice is fat loss usually shows up on your waist. So start measuring your waist, seeing what that trend is as well. Because you'll be surprised to know that as the weeks go by, if you're doing a deficit correctly, if you're in a deficit, your waist will start to narrow down before other areas. So that's another good indicator to know whether you're in a deficit or not. Another way, or something you can ask yourself along understanding whether you're in a deficit or not, is what's your daily activity like? Are you sitting down? You have a sedentary job where you're in the office 24/7 and you don't really get enough movements? Or maybe say someone you do have time, but you're just lazy and you're a fucking couch potato. But what's your daily activity like? Like, your movement outside the gym in terms of walking, hiking, whatever you do is so crucial, because I'm gonna be real, 10K steps is something that you have to aim for daily. Our bodies are meant to move, be active. We're not meant to just sit and stay still and be planted. I know other jobs require you to be that, but you got to find ways to get yourself moving, whether that's a walking pad or whatever the case. But getting daily movements is essential, especially when it comes to fat loss, because it plays a huge role when it comes to crunching down on your body fat percentage, burning more fat than just focused on the weight. And doing something like 10K steps daily is a huge thing that you have to implement early on. But put 10K as the target goal for each day. Have a non-negotiable of hitting a minimum of 8K steps. That way, on those hard days, maybe things came up, but you were still able to do the bare minimum of 8K step. That's still progress, and that's still going to aid you in terms of fat loss. And that way, we can go about our deficit accordingly when it comes to movement. And another thing we got to ask ourselves and be honest with ourselves is, how is our weekend looking like? Because a lot of people want to pat themselves on the back Monday through Friday, even with work, and then they just get excited to step out and endlessly drink, endlessly spend on going out night after night. And as my good friend always said, weekends are where diets go to shit, and it's so true. It's one of the biggest things that separates the guys who sustain their fat loss journey over the ones who just quit, binge, destroy their whole week of dieting through one weekend. And then the cycle continues. The cycle continues nonstop. And that's a real make or break for a lot of people, because diets do go to shit on the weekends because of people's habits, people's choices, I should say, because you are choosing to do that. That's why I'll never feel bad for people who assume that you can outwork a bad diet. Because I want to give it to you guys like this, right? Imagine you're at a deficit of 500 calories. So 5 days, that's around 2,500 calories. And then the whole weekend, each single day of that weekend, you go on a surplus of 1,000. So now you're ending the week at a surplus of 3,000, and you just wasted all your efforts Monday through Friday. But again, guys, that's your choice. That's your choice. There's no one else doing that for you. And all that is avoidable by you just saying no. whether it's through the invites, whether it's to yourself, because you know deep down yourself that that is not going towards your goal. That's not going to get you any faster to dropping those pounds and being in a lower body fat percentage. No. Maybe you pat yourself on the back going from 25% to 23. Congrats. Congrats. You didn't have a couple cookies. That shit's easy. But you're not going to do that shit and get from 25% body fat to 12% because that process alone is not accidental. It's not accidental, and it's certainly not binging over the weekend and thinking that you're going to get that result anytime soon. No chance. And another thing I got to mention on top of that is if you're eyeballing your food, your calories, you're drinking regular soda over a diet, that's another thing in terms of why people struggle when it comes to being in a calorie deficit. So when you're eyeballing, just know that you're not in a calorie deficit. You're not in a calorie deficit because you have to eliminate the guesswork. You have to actually track your food to know whether you're in a deficit or not. A lot of people don't understand how many calories that are going into the oils that they're putting in their food. Or in other restaurants with food, you see the steak and you're just assuming, oh yeah, steak has protein, but you're not understanding the oils that are being put while that steak is being cooked. You're not understanding how much oil is being put on that. And I've worked in a restaurant, guys, so I know firsthand the amount that is being poured in from 2-star to 5-star. I know exactly the amounts that are being put in each food. And it's ridiculously high, especially in America, man. Let alone the portions. Think of it this way. Your appetizer is like 400 calories. Your main course is like 2,000, 2,500, 3. And then what's the famous thing that waiters or waitresses say to you at the end? You got room for dessert, and your fat ass fucking grabs that shit and eats it. And boom, you're already at a surplus. You're assuming all these things are lower in calories, or you're not even aware of how many calories are in these meals. So that's what I mean. You can't guesswork. You can't guess in terms of how many calories you're having and then assume that, no, I didn't eat that much. You don't know. You don't know because you don't track. So whenever you're guessing, just know that you're not in a calorie deficit. And another thing is, don't go on an extreme diet. Like, guys, you don't gotta starve yourself in order to achieve fat loss. You wanna gradually do it, bro. Slow and steady wins the race. You don't gotta be on some flash, jump in the gun at your fat loss journey in the very beginning. You don't gotta starve yourself, bro. Because obviously, naturally, when you take off carbs away, you're eliminating glycogen. Now you're flattening out. But not only that, you're tanking your energy. So how can you have sufficient energy when you go into your workouts? Let alone carbs. Let's talk about protein. Because you got to consistently hit your protein target each and every single day to recover the muscles that you're breaking down when you're hitting these workouts. So now you're eliminating and not getting an efficient amount in that for your body. Now, not only are we breaking down our muscles, but now we're at a high risk of injury with our muscles being fatigued, not being able to recover, and constantly being shot down with energy. And now on top of the fasting and having your fats being way too low, now you're fucking with your hormones. This is where a lot of guys mess up in terms of their metabolism. So understanding that you don't have to go in an extreme diet, you don't have to eliminate a macronutrient completely. You want to go in a more sustainable approach of losing body fat, losing 1 to 2 pounds per week, maybe maximum 3, and having a sustainable diet throughout is a lot more sustainable and easier on your body, and it'll get you towards your fat loss rather than tanking everything down, messing up your hormones, messing up your energy levels, spiking up your hunger levels, which will result to you binging, ordering ordering Domino's while watching Netflix, consuming it endlessly just to rebound back to the weight you're at, or worse, even fatter. You don't need to do all that shit because chances of you rebounding is 10 out of 10 times. The level of cravings that you have when doing that shit is going to be ridiculous, and it's only a matter of time until you break, truthfully. So ask yourself this honestly. How's your weight trending within 2 to 3 weeks? How's your waist trending within 2 to 3 weeks? Are you hitting daily steps consistently? And are you binging? Are you fucking off through the weekend and having your diet completely go to shit just to restart that Monday that you tell yourself you're gonna fix? Because if you're answering all those questions with a no, then we should probably fix that before we start cutting any calories out the way. If we can fix that firsthand, if we can get those questions to be a yes, now we can understand that we're at a deficit and we just hit a plateau. All we have to do is reduce a little bit from the carbs, a little bit from the fats. Not so much the protein, because we gotta hit that shit on the daily. We gotta hit our protein target each and every single day. But on top of that, we're consistent with our steps. That's how you truly know that you're in a calorie deficit. So if you're somewhere right now and you don't know how to structure fat loss, be sure to check out my latest video where I go fully in depth in that. But until then, guys, I'll be back with another video. Peace out.
And this road stay tough. They tryna show fake love. Wait, when the bands went up, that's when they all changed up. And they saying I made it, not to the whole.